going to be doing a watercolor painting. I think we're going to do a little tropical painting. I have a line across here where my horizon is, and most of it's going to be a sky above it, a little bit of water and sand below. I also took some tape and cut it in the shape of a little boat sail and a boat here, only to keep that paper white so I can put my little sailboat in there. So let's get started. I've got my paints all laid out. Got my water, my brushes. I also have just paper towels for wiping my brush off. So first off, we're going to start with the sky. So basically I'm going to wet. And now I have marked off corners here where my mat is going to go. I'm going to go outside that line a little bit in case I wish to move my little matting left or right over it. So I'm just going across. All this is straight water, just plain basic water. And I use a wider brush. It's just a little easier to use. I'm going to be a little careful moving away from, you can see where it's bubbling up on the tape. You can use masking tape, or they do have stuff you can buy that almost like a rubber cement type of product that you can put on that you just rub off afterwards. But we're just using that. And I'm trying to keep the lower part here fairly dry. I want my horizon straight. So now I'm going to go into my blues. I've got like an ultramarine blue or a phthalo blue. Let's see, I think I'm going to use this one. And I'm going to start up here and go across, straight across. I'm going to wet my brush, pick up more color. I want it darker up towards the top. Get a little darker. By adding more water, you get lighter. By adding more paint, I've got a little bit of blue in there, greenish color, almost an aquamarine. Back to my phthalo. And now that I have that, I'm just going to clean my brush. And then I'm going to I have my paper taped down up here, but I'm going to kind of lift it up a little bit and kind of just water. That's all I have on this brush, and bring that color down. Run it down. Lift that up a little bit. All the way right to the horizon. And you can see how it automatically gets lighter. Let's do that again. I'm going to clean my brush. Now I just got straight water on my brush. Don't let it dry to do this. Make sure it stays wet. And just run it down, all the way down. And then when you get to the horizon, just sort of right along that edge. Kind of keep that horizon straight. All right, I think we've got it. I'm going to put it down. The reason I tape down the corners is the paper does buckle on you if you don't have it taped down, and it kind of leaves it a little more straight. All right, I am going to take my paper towel. I'm going to form a corner, almost like a point. And then, not up here, I want that to stay up like that, but down here, I'm going to go in and just, you can see how I can touch, and it lifts up some of the paint. And when it gets dirty, just flip it. Get a clean area. Oh, let's see where it'd be a good place for little clouds. Just sort of wispy clouds coming along here, along the horizon. That looks good. I don't want too many. Maybe in here, just a little. All right. So I've got that. I'm gonna let that dry. If it's not dark enough, let it dry. You can go over it again if you want, but right now I like the way it looks. All right, now I'm gonna come down. I don't want to do this right yet where the water is, because it'll just bleed into the sky. So, but I'm gonna come down and do the sand. So same thing, just a clean wet brush, and just along that bottom, decide how big or how much water you want, how much sand you want. Just come along there. I'm going to actually go a little further than what my marks are, because I can move my painting when I frame it up or down. All right, I'm going into some of our browns. If you don't have brown, you can mix brown with alizarin crimson and your any of the greens. It makes a decent brown. Down here, I'm gonna this is the darker, maybe some shade. You can even add a little darker. And then I'm gonna wet my brush, sort of tap it off. I'm gonna pick up just a touch of the yellow with it, mix in with that brown. Not much. I don't want yellow sand. I just want it a little lighter. Then I'm gonna come up. You can see it's a little. You can see a little bit of the yellow in there. All right, that looks pretty good. We can come in and add more shadows if we need to. Once we start getting, I'm gonna put some palm trees in. All right, let me dry my brush. And this is still pretty wet. And I'm gonna go in and start mixing some dark blues. And I'm not adding a ton of water, just enough water to make it flow. And then I'm gonna come literally right below that, almost follow that line. And if you put your finger on there, it helps you draw that straight line. If you have trouble with that straight line, you can actually take a little masking tape across here when it dries and paint below it, but that looks pretty good. I'm gonna add just a touch of water to make it flow a little more. Pick up some more of my color, and right below that, I'm gonna come straight across. And you can see where my boat is. Pick up more color. I want it darker. And just keep, add a drop more water to my color. I want it dark, dark, dark. And then I'm gonna come straight all the way to the edge. All right. If we want it darker, we can let that dry and then go over it again. But I think that looks pretty good. All right, I'm gonna got a small flat brush here, and you can see it's just flat. And right in here, towards the shore, I'm gonna come and pick up some of that, and then I'm gonna dry it off. I'm just picking up some of the color and almost wiggling my hands, almost like it's a wave coming in. You do this while it's wet, and if it doesn't pick it up, you can wet your brush and kind of maybe do a little scrubbing. You can see almost back and forth. You can pick up some more. And let's see, where else do I want a little wave? Maybe here. All right. A lot of this is going to get hidden behind our palm trees. Maybe a little behind under the boat, like the boat's got a little water wake following it. All right, that looks good. I like that. Okay. This is damp, but it's not too bad. You don't want it too wet, otherwise everything is gonna sort of blend. All right, I've got this. I'm gonna pick up just my fingernail here. It's getting a little, let me, that tape there, just kind of pull it off. There we go. And I can take a little bit of that blue, not much, just right on the tip, and just kind of fill in any place that. All right, let's And be kind of careful. The paper's still a little wet, so it's giving me a little bit of a hard time, but we'll get that up. There we go. Okay. All right, so there's our little boat. We'll come in and blend it in and work with that a little bit, put some shadows in it. But right now, we're gonna start working on our palm trees. Well, this is still drying down here. And you notice I left a little white here. That's almost like a shoreline. We're gonna go put maybe a few waves in there, but we'll work on that as we work down. So let's kind of establish where my, let's see, where my trees are. I'm going back into some of the brown. I even have a little bit of black. If you don't have black, that's fine. Mix your three darkest colors, your alizarin crimsons, your greens, and your blues, and you'll get almost a very, very dark, almost black. But I want mostly brown. I just want a dark brown. So I think I'm gonna put one palm tree. I'm just gonna establish where they're at. Maybe right here. And pick up some more color. Maybe he's got a little friend that was right next to him there. All right, let's see, how about a big one over here? Let's get some more color. Yeah, this is a pretty good size one. And I'm sort of scrubbing in where the, behind it, where the water is. Okay, get sort of rid of that water line. We can even have, oh, maybe we got a smaller one here. Maybe he just grows above the horizon. All right. We can darken all that. Now let's get that shoreline in. Now that we have this established, I'm gonna go in and pick up a corner of the blue, mix it with a little bit of that brown, mostly blue. And right along the shoreline, I'm just kind of almost a jagged type. And I'm gonna clean that brush good, and just with the point, kind of pull that color back a little bit. It's just water on the brush right now. I'm lightening that area, and then down below, kind of mixing it with the sand color. So we have something, looks like, and we're leaving a little bit of the white. Okay, so let's get started with my palm trees. I have a fan brush. It looks just what it says, a fan. I'm gonna take and wet it. I'm gonna go into my greens and blues and yellows. I'm gonna keep it dark at first. I even touch a little of the browns. I've got almost brown on one side. I know you can't tell, but there's blues on the other side. And from here, I'm gonna just sort of, and I'm gonna wet that, pick up more color. And then I'm gonna tap it, sort of separate it. And from here, I'm gonna start drawing my pond fronds in. And these are light. And it's good to start light first, and then we can darken it. I'm gonna go into some of my blacks. Add it to my greens. Come back in. Some of my shadow colors. You can even pull a few up there. Get that little touch of black in there. Still on the green side, but it's, you can see where we're getting shadows. It keeps getting a little darker, but by doing the various colors and shades, you get that variety. And let's put a few out this way. Maybe there's something back there. All right, maybe there's one in there. In fact, we can even come in here and have one coming down, sort of hanging down there. Not too long. All right, we've got one in. Touch a little bit of the yellows back into the color. Maybe this one. Oh, this is a small one. Won't even have to put the lines in. Just something coming out. Maybe one more. I'll go back into some of my blacks, mixing in with my greens. Maybe even a touch of the blues in there, just for a slight different variety. This one, let's add some water to that. It's not coming off. If it's not coming off, add a little water. You don't want it soaking wet, but you do want it spread out. And you can even let's darken that a little bit. Okay, yellows, greens, some of the blues, and this one has some. Let's go a little bit darker right around here. Let's pull that one over top. Add some darks to there. All right, we've got ourselves some palm trees. We can go and darken some of that, add some more color if we need to. Right now it looks pretty good. I want to work on these trunks a little bit. I'm going to take just my round brush, and I'm going to go into some of the blacks and the browns. And then as I come down, I'm going to kind of shadows up here, then add some water, kind of drag that, just touching here and there, back to those darks, maybe here, and they have some of those little, and the same thing here, some darks up near the top. And it has, oh, sort of a rough. And we just sort of giving it some shadows here and breaking it up. All right. Now that we got that, I'm going to go back to my browns. And on the sands, we're going to give some shadows. So it looks like it's lightest here, so the shadows would be coming off here. And of course there's shadows for the pond fronds. This one, there's shadows coming off of here. So, all right. You can even take your fan brush, go into the browns, yellows, blacks, browns, whatever, and sort of do a little. And what I'm doing is I'm just pulling up on it and letting it splash. Almost give it a gritty, but keep it down on the sand. Make it look like there's sand pebbles or something down here. Just gives it a little detail. All right, and I'm gonna go into some darks, and I'm gonna use, since I got the fan brush, I'm gonna kind of stop and pull, almost if it's, and I'm gonna come down to one side, just kind of pulling a little bit here, almost making it look almost round. All right, I'm gonna leave it at that. That looks good. Okay, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna take some of the reds, mix it in with some of the greens. Gives it almost a different shade of black, basically. Then I'm gonna come up, and in here, just, and you can see it isn't red. It looks almost black. But it's almost a different shade. And I'm gonna just darken some of these areas. This one, I'm not gonna darken too much. It's more out where it's getting more light. And by mixing the different colors to make black, you almost get different shades of black. You get sort of a little more blue towards it if you mix more blues into it, or more red type colors if you're using more of the reds. So, and you can see how that just keeps building on that. I can even go into some yellows and even add a few of those, and it looks like almost like a few highlights coming off of there. I don't want it really yellow there. All right, now that we got our sand and our sea, we can even add a little, where's my pointed brush? A little more browns here. Maybe there's a little line of seaweed here forming or something. A little touch of the greens in there. Just add some interest here. But I'm gonna work on the boat. Okay. Make sure my brush is clean. The boat is basically white. So I'm gonna go into some of the blacks, but I'm gonna keep it light. And starting at the top, pull straight down. And you can even take that and lighten it if you need to. Then I'm gonna, down the bottom, darken this a little, sort of gray it out. Take a little bit of the browns. I want the base of the boat. I'm gonna take some of the, just a touch of the blues. A little reflected there. And it sort of blends it into the water. All right, back to my blacks, just on the corner tip of the brush, just the corner tip. And on this, I want to basically just sort of bring a bit of shadow. And put a little bit, go back into my water, and then kind of drag that down. Makes it look like, and then I'm gonna go back in, touch them a little my color. And you can see almost like it's billowing and then collapsing. So you have some, let me get a bit of something there. We'll just pick it up. All right, but I want it basically white. And that's just, I take a touch of the blue. And just on the edge, I'm gonna scrub. I don't even have hardly any, it's mostly water. Just kind of blending that in as the boat is there. And then I'm gonna go in, pick up some blues with a little bit of the black. I want a deep blue color because I want to set that boat on the water. And basically we're coming almost straight across. It's more black than blue, but just right under the boat. And then I'm going to pick up just straight blue, clean my brush, and then drag that blue out. And that just set that boat right in the water. All right. And if you can't do the straight line, you can even take a pencil and draw that line. That'll work as well. All right, we've got our little boat out in our water. If you want, you can take a little bit of the blue, go back to the blue, but you're going to only use the very tip. And you can even almost a rocking motion. And if you don't like that brush, I do have a liner brush. You can wet it, go into the blues, and do that same thing, that kind of rocking motion. Basically what you're doing is you're putting a few waves out here. Now watercolors do dry lighter, so a lot of these will fade right back in. And you may have to go over and do it a couple times, but right now we're just gonna, depends on how dark you put it on to begin with. See how they're starting to fade in. And basically you're just little rocking motion. Up, just like that. And if you get too dark, just come back in with a little water on your brush. You can kind of smear them out a little bit or drag them out while they're still wet. So you've got yourself a nice little painting here. I think I'm going to come in right along that pole, add a little blue, almost as if you can see a little bit of the sky or something between the boat and that. All right, I'm going to go into my black. I'm going to roll that brush, and I still got the twiggy. Maybe up here. There's a bird flying in. Couple seabirds coming in. All right, I think we've got a finished painting. Go into my reds. I'm going to sign that. And if you want, if you're not good with a paintbrush signing, use your pencil. You can sign that with a pencil. And I think we have a finished painting. I hope you enjoyed that one. Let's take our mat. You can sort of move it around to where you want it. I think we have a finished painting.